At my mother-in-law's 65th birthday dinner in Paris, my world tilted. Oops, we miscounted, Daniel chuckled, as his family smirked at the table with no seat for me. Seems I'm not family, I said calmly, my voice steady despite the storm inside. I walked out, the Parisian night cool against my skin. 30 minutes later, they'd discover I'd cancelled the entire event, venue, catering, everything, their faces pale as ghosts. My silence was just the beginning. I stood in the gilded dining room of Lucille L'Etoile, the restaurant I'd chosen for Margaret's celebration. The Eiffel Tower sparkled through the windows, a cruel contrast to the humiliation unfolding. I'd spent months planning this, flights, suites, a 7-course menu, using my expertise as Chicago's top event planner. Daniel's words, "we miscounted," hit like a blade, his casual tone masking intent. His family, Margaret, her husband George, Daniel's siblings, watched, some amused, others feigning surprise. Elise appeared, Daniel's college ex, her silk dress catching the chandelier's glow. "Daniel, darling," she purred, claiming the seat meant for me. Our children, Sophie, 8, Ethan, 12, and Mia, 16, stood frozen, their eyes darting to me. Sophie clutched her doll, Ethan shifted awkwardly, and Mia's phone paused mid-scroll. Margaret's smile was triumphant. "Laura's so resourceful," she said, as if I were staff. "She'll sort it out." I could have screamed, demanded a chair, exposed their cruelty. Instead, I straightened, my heels clicking on the marble floor as I exited. Their laughter faded behind me. In the quiet of the street, I pulled out my phone, opening my event app. As Chicago's premier planner, I'd secured every detail of this trip with my company's credit line. Daniel thought he'd diminished me. He was wrong. My silence was power, and I had 30 minutes to wield it. Lucille L'Etoile buzzed with elegance, crystal chandeliers casting light over white linens, the clink of wine glasses mingling with laughter. Families celebrated, couples toasted, but for me, Laura, the scene was a stage for betrayal. Daniel sat beside Elise, his hand on hers, while Margaret's family filled the round table I'd designed for 12, not 13. My chair was missing, a deliberate omission. "Oops, we miscounted," Daniel had chuckled, his family's smirk stinging worse than the words. Sophie, Ethan, and Mia watched, their faces pale, as I stood frozen, an outsider in my own event. I'd planned every detail, the Parisian skyline view, the caviar starter, the bespoke cake, for Margaret's 65th. As Chicago's top event planner, I'd poured my expertise into this trip, using my company's credit line to secure it all. Now, Daniel's dismissal and Elise's presence mocked my efforts. "Laura will manage," Margaret said, her tone patronizing. "She's so good at fixing things." Elise slid into my seat, her smile sharp. "Daniel, you didn't tell me how helpful she is," she purred, her hand grazing his arm. The room seemed to close in. Nearby diners glanced over, sensing drama. Sophie's small voice broke through, "Mom, where are you sitting?" Ethan shifted, his eyes on his father, torn. Mia, usually glued to her phone, stared at me, her expression hard. Daniel laughed. "It's just a mix-up, kids. Mom'll sort it." He expected me to smile, to play along, as I had for years under his family's subtle slights. Margaret's voice carried. "Laura's used to handling chaos, aren't you, dear?" The family chuckled, their amusement a practiced performance. I'd seen it before, dinners where my ideas were dismissed, my career reduced to a hobby. But this was different, a public erasure, orchestrated with Elise, Daniel's old flame, as the centerpiece. I felt the burn of humiliation, but my face stayed calm. I could have demanded a chair, made a scene. Instead, I folded my napkin, placed it on the table, and stood. The room hushed, all eyes on me. Daniel's brow furrowed. "Laura, don't overreact," he said, his tone sharp. Elise's smile tightened. I looked at my children, Sophie's confusion, Ethan's discomfort, Mia's quiet anger, then at Daniel, his confidence cracking. "Seems I'm not family," I said, my voice clear. The table fell silent. I walked out, heels echoing on marble, the Eiffel Tower's glow fading behind me. Daniel called after me, "Come back, Laura." I didn't turn. In the cool Parisian street, I opened my event app. Every reservation, restaurant, hotel, tours, was in my name, my company's credit backing it. I sent emails to cancel the dinner, the week's tours, the chateau stay, transferring deposits back to my account. My phone buzzed, Daniel's texts, first annoyed, then frantic. I ignored them, sipping espresso at a nearby cafe, waiting. 25 minutes later, I re-entered through the service entrance. The maitre d', Pierre, met me, concerned. "Madam, the cancellations, are you sure?" I nodded, handing him proof of my authority. "They'll need new payment." From a discreet corner, I watched the chaos unfold. Pierre approached the table, speaking to George. The family's laughter stopped. Daniel checked his phone, his face ashen as he read my message, "All arrangements cancelled. Your family's financial issues are public now. Enjoy dinner." George's voice rose, "There's a mistake." Pierre shook his head, showing declined card receipts. Margaret clutched her pearls, her composure cracking. Elise whispered to Daniel, then fled, her heels clicking. Sophie hugged her doll, Ethan stared at the floor, Mia glared at her father. The room watched, whispering. My silence had turned their script against them, exposing their facade before Paris's elite. In the quiet of my hastily booked room at Hotel Lumiere, paid for with my own credit card, I sat at the desk, my laptop glowing with purpose. The Parisian skyline sparkled outside, but inside, I was dismantling Daniel's world. His betrayal at Lucille Etoile, excluding me from the table, laughing it off as a miscount, had ignited a fire. My silence wasn't surrender, it was strategy. As Chicago's top event planner, I'd built his family's social empire, and now I'd reclaim it. I logged into our financial accounts, all in my name for tax purposes Daniel had never questioned. He'd signed where I pointed, too busy playing the heir to notice. I started with the investment portfolio, $95,000 in mutual funds, transferred to my personal account. The family's Napa vineyard, boasted as Daniel's, was mine on paper. I initiated its transfer to my sole ownership. His consulting firm, a glittering facade, was an LLC I'd formed, every contract, every payment, my signature. I redirected its funds to a new account, locking him out. My phone buzzed, Daniel's 23rd call since I'd left. I powered it off, focusing on the screen. Joint credit cards for his lavish lifestyle, cancelled. His car lease, gym membership, subscriptions, rerouted to accounts he couldn't access. I'd been the invisible hand behind his success, and he'd forgotten. I called Claire, my lawyer, on her emergency line. "It's 1 a.m., Laura," she said, voice sharpening as I detailed Daniel's betrayal and Elise's role. "I want legal separation papers tonight," I said. "Freeze everything before he reacts." Claire's keyboard clicked. "We'll need financial records, proof of his affair, and a separation agreement." "How fast?" "Now," I replied. "Serve him tomorrow at his cafe meeting." She promised drafts by dawn. The kids' faces haunted me, Sophie's confusion, Ethan's torn loyalty, Mia's anger. They didn't understand yet, but they would. Daniel's dismissal of me as resourceful was his lie, and I'd expose it. I paused, staring at the vineyard's deed. This was about reclaiming my power, not just revenge. A knock startled me. Mia stood there, her 16-year-old eyes red. "Mom, why didn't you fight back?" she asked. I studied her, the girl who'd once shared her secrets with me. "Silence can be stronger, Mia," I said. She nodded, uncertain but trusting, and left. Her visit fueled me. By 3 a.m., I'd frozen Daniel out of his financial world. Claire texted, "Papers ready. Service at 8 a.m. I closed my laptop, the room's silence empowering. Daniel's panic was beginning, he'd underestimated the woman he'd called a planner. I packed, ready for a new chapter, my children's trust my true victory. By morning, I'd unraveled Daniel's financial empire from my hotel room. Every account, property, and business in my name, thanks to Daniel's oversight, was now mine. I transferred $60,000 from his business account to mine, canceled his credit cards, and redirected payments for his car lease and club memberships. As Chicago's top event planner, I'd built his world, and now I was dismantling it, my silence louder than his lies. In the hotel lobby, I watched from a corner as Daniel faced the fallout. He stood at the front desk, arguing, his face red. "My card's fine," he snapped, swiping it again. The clerk shook her head. "Declined, monsieur." "Another card?" Elise, clutching her purse, offered hers, but it failed too. I'd frozen their accounts. Sophie hugged her doll, Ethan stared at his shoes, Mia glared at Daniel. Guests whispered, sensing scandal. Daniel dialed his bank, his voice rising. "This is impossible." His ashen face told me he'd learned the truth, his accounts were empty, locked by my overnight moves. I'd secured the Napa vineyard, the firm, everything he'd claimed as his. He'd never questioned my signatures, too busy flaunting his status. Now, his empire crumbled. Margaret tried to intervene, her pearls gleaming. "There's a mistake," she insisted. The clerk showed declined receipts, unmoved. Daniel's phone buzzed, my text, all accounts frozen. "Your debts are yours now." His jaw dropped. Elise stormed off, her heels clicking, abandoning him as the financial ruin sank in. The kids watched, their loyalty to him fraying. Sophie whispered, "Mom did this?" Mia nodded, her eyes fierce. I slipped away, finalizing transfers in my room. The firm's $42,000 operating fund was mine. The chateau's deposit, paid by my company, was refunded. Claire texted, "Papers served at 8 a.m. at Café de Flore." Daniel's public humiliation was spreading, Paris's elite were buzzing. My silence had exposed his facade, turning his scripted betrayal against him. Back in the lobby, Daniel pleaded with the clerk, his voice cracking. "I'm a successful consultant." Security hovered, ready to step in. The kids stood together, Sophie clutching Ethan's hand, Mia texting furiously, likely to me. They were seeing their father's true self, a man reliant on my work, now powerless without it. My silence wasn't revenge, it was justice, clearing space for the truth to reach my children. As I packed, I thought of their faces, Sophie's trust, Ethan's confusion, Mia's strength. Daniel's call stopped, he knew I was unreachable. His family's social standing teetered, their wealth a myth I'd sustained. My silence had shifted the narrative, and I was ready to write the next chapter, free from their lies, with my children by my side. 3 days after Paris, I sat in my Chicago apartment, a small space I'd rented with my event planning profits. My silence hadn't been abandonment, it was space for Sophie, Ethan, and Mia to see the truth. I wrote letters to each, pouring out memories of my love and sacrifices, including mementos to anchor them. For Sophie, I recalled singing her to sleep after a nightmare, tucking in her favorite teddy bear's tag. For Ethan, I wrote about late-night science project sessions, enclosing his first A+ certificate. For Mia, I described her first heartbreak, how we'd baked cookies through tears, adding her old locket. I delivered the letters to their school, entrusting them to Ms. Harper, the secretary. "They miss you, Laura," she said softly. Days later, Ethan called from a friend's phone, voice breaking. "Mom, I read your letter. I'm sorry I didn't see it." He described chaos at home, Elise throwing out my photos, ignoring Sophie's fears, dismissing Mia's college plans. "Dad says Elise is better, but she's not you." Sophie found my scrapbook, crying over our zoo trip photos. Mia read my journal, detailing nights I'd skipped work for her debates while Daniel worked late. "You gave up a promotion for us," she texted, stunned. Daniel's lies were unraveling. One night, Mia arrived, rain-soaked, clutching my locket. "You didn't fight back," she said, hugging me. "Why?" I smiled. Silence showed the truth, Mia. The turning point was Sophie's school play. I watched from the back as Daniel and Elise arrived late, arguing. Sophie scanned the crowd for me, her face falling. After, she ran to Mia, whispering, "I want Mom." That night, they walked to my apartment, Sophie with her teddy, Ethan with his certificate, Mia with my journal. "We're not going back," Ethan said, his 12-year-old voice firm. "We choose you." I held them close, their warmth healing years of pain. My silence had given them clarity, not to hurt Daniel but to free them from his narrative. As they slept on my couch, I knew we'd rebuild, not as a family defined by his name, but as one forged by truth and love. At 8 a.m., the process server found Daniel at Café de Flore, his weekly Paris haunt. I'd given Claire his exact location, same table, same time, every Tuesday. "Daniel Hayes, you've been served," the server said, dropping a manila envelope on his laptop. Daniel's face paled as he read Claire's papers: legal separation, asset freezes, business dissolution. Every account, every property, was mine, exposing his financial dependence on me. His client, a nervous investor, left, sensing ruin. Elise vanished when Daniel's cards failed, taking a marketing job in London. Claire confirmed, she left him the day after the restaurant. Daniel's calls to me, desperate, pleading, went unanswered, my new number a secret. He'd called me resourceful, a prop, never seeing I'd built his life. Now, he faced the truth alone. The kids chose me that rainy night, arriving with my letters. "We're done with Dad," Mia said, her 16-year-old resolve fierce. Sophie clung to her teddy, Ethan to his certificate. We talked late, their questions raw, why I'd stayed silent, how I'd endured. "Silence was my strength," I said, "to show you who he really is." They nodded, their trust in me reborn. Daniel's desperation grew. He called friends, my old colleagues, begging for my whereabouts. "She won't talk," he told his sister, unaware Ethan overheard. His social empire crumbled, Chicago's elite whispered of his debts. My silence exposed him, not as punishment, but as liberation for us all. In my apartment, I held my children, their heartbeats grounding me. My silence had rewritten our story, freeing us from Daniel's lies. Claire finalized the papers, ensuring my assets were safe. As we planned our new life, I knew my silence had been power, not weakness, building a future where love, not status, defined us. 6 months after Paris, I stood in our new Chicago home, a cozy 3-bedroom house bought with my event planning earnings. The hardwood floors gleamed, the walls glowed with fresh paint, and Sophie's laughter echoed as she painted her room turquoise. "Mom, can we add glitter?" she asked, her 8-year-old eyes sparkling. "All the glitter you want," I said, brushing silver stars onto her walls. Ethan and Mia shared a room by choice, to catch up, Mia said, her 16-year-old smile warm. We painted together, music blaring, until Ethan got paint in his hair, and we laughed until our sides ached. This home wasn't Daniel's grand mansion, but it was ours. I'd turned the basement into my office, reviving my event planning business. Clients who'd once praised Daniel now called me. "Laura, you were always the talent," said a CEO who'd ignored me before. My phone rang constantly with bookings, my name no longer in Daniel's shadow. Daniel's world had collapsed. Claire reported his eviction from the mansion, unpaid after I froze the accounts. He lived in a tiny studio, his Porsche repossessed, driving a rusty sedan. Elise was gone, her London job a quick exit when his wealth vanished. The kids thrived here, Sophie's art covered the fridge, Ethan's soccer medals lined the shelves, Mia's college essays took shape over late-night coffee with me. We planted a garden, a riot of flowers and herbs. Sophie knelt in the dirt, giggling as Mia teased her crooked rose. Ethan filmed it, joking about our family vlog. These moments, simple and real, healed years of Daniel's dismissals. I'd found their old mementos, Sophie's teddy, Ethan's certificate, Mia's locket, in a box I'd packed, each sparking memories of my sacrifices. I sent Daniel a final document, 45 pages detailing my contributions over 15 years. Mortgage payments on his mansion, $980,000, mine. His car leases, $145,000. His firm's expenses, trips, dinners, suits, $82,000, all mine. Unpaid hours for his business, 2,600. Solo school events, 192. The last page read, "My silence was my power, not your victory." I mailed it certified to his studio. He signed for it, silent. Mia told me Daniel called her, voice shaky, claiming I was vindictive. I read it, "Mom," she said, walking our new street. It was just truth. Sophie chased fireflies, Ethan kicked a soccer ball, and I realized my silence had built this, a life of love, not status. Daniel's calls to the kids faded, his studio echoed with silence, his once loud life now small. On a quiet evening, we baked cookies, Sophie's glittery handprints on the counter. Ethan planned his soccer game, Mia her college visit. This was our empire, built on truth. My silence had carved out freedom, proving I was never the outsider Daniel's family claimed. My silence turned betrayal into triumph. By saying nothing, I let Daniel's lies collapse, revealing the truth to Sophie, Ethan, and Mia. In our Chicago home, we built a life of laughter, turquoise walls, messy gardens, cookie nights, free from his control. Daniel, alone in his silent studio, faced the emptiness he'd tried to impose on me, his empire a myth I'd sustained. My children flourished, Sophie's art, Ethan's medals, Mia's college dreams, proof of our unbreakable bond. My silence wasn't weakness, it was strength, guiding them to me. Daniel's world shrank, ours grew boundless, rooted in love, not lies. If this tale of quiet power struck you, hit like. My favorite moment was Laura flipping the script, canceling Daniel's world from her hotel room. Yours? The kid's choice? The cafe reckoning? That final ledger of truth? Comment below and subscribe for more stories of resilience.